Jujutsu Kaisen and Hazbin Hotel are arguably two of the most popular things in media right now, especially with the current Jujutsu manga and Hazbin Hotel recently getting announced for a season 2, 3, and 4. Well, it makes a lot of sense why people are comparing them, whether it be memes or actual power scaling, as they share a huge big factor that makes it why they be compared so often. Their fandoms are weird as shit and have weird as fuck people, whether it be Gojo females, Alistair females.
Here's a rhyme for all I stand. I will never be your man. Hold on. I'm fictional and they so you stay back to me.
When two fandoms clash like this, naturally the idea of who is stronger will be brought into play. So that brings us to Gojo, the strongest sorcerer of them all, and the strongest sorcerer of today, and the Hazbin Hotel cast. So who would truly win? To make this simpler, Gojo will be in his prime and at his strongest, no pun intended, and the Hazbin Hotel characters will be in the same. And to save us time, so we're not making an hour-long video, I'm only gonna mainly cover the top tier Hazbin Hotel characters, like the Sins, Lucifer, Adams, the Goisha, Overlords, that kind of stuff. Unless it's like for upscaling purposes, I'm not gonna go over every single character's individual hacks and shit like that. It's a lot easier to just go over the top tier, since I think it makes a lot of sense if Gojo can beat at top tier, then he can beat like fucking IMP or something. But let's start with Hazbin Hotel's AP and durability feats, since I haven't really got to spoken up on this versus power yet. So something to note beforehand is that while some of Vivzi's older statements are iffy, I'll be using some that are still backed up and consistent and provide the backed up evidence with when I present those statements. Anything I don't bring up or ignore is either just due to not being relevant or to just not mattering. Even low tier ancient fucking teenagers of the Goisha, who don't really have their powers yet, can survive building to large building level attacks. Also, this denotes any soulless star level scaling, please stop. He was not even remotely near to the epicenter of that blast. And even Millie, another one of these low tiers who imps should all upscale off of, since they can fight the same people and stuff like that, can kill this giant fish and even physically overpower it via prying open its jaws, which just by moving could create a large town level destruction. And these characters are massively, massively below the high tiers, as we'll get into later. But now to get into their power, Adam and Alistair can also do town level feats with his lasers and tendrils respectively, both against Serpentius' ship. And considering how casually both of these characters do it, none of them are taking Serpentius terribly seriously. And considering how low tiers are able to do the same range of these town level feats, I think we can pretty agree this is like them casually just showing off their power and shouldn't be indicative of them actually trying and going all out. Now, and yes, the pilot is still canon as mentioned in the episode 2. The Serpentius attack was only a week ago from episode 2 time. And even Vivzi herself says the events of the pilot are canon and the only thing changed is visual things, but everything in the events and pilot happens. Now let's get into some higher level feats that when these higher tier characters actually are trying, such as when Vox is able to cause a citywide blackout in this ring, when he became very angry at Alistair, with his calc in the low end being in the large town range, with the higher ends being city. But considering low tiers can perform town level feats, and when the other high tiers are casual, they can perform low end town level feats. At the very least, the people above Vox should scale to the city level end, if not Vox himself directly. And the two highest ends for the verse are when Adam's laser was fully charged, he cuts the hotel in half, which is around mountain level, and Stolas' magic when he opens the portal is calced in around the same range, maybe a bit higher. For the general scaling chain of the verse, the low tier should be massively below people like the Overlords, Alistair, and people who upscale them. This is due to being the reason the Overlords are much stronger than the average tenor, to where even people like Alistair are compared to have unimaginable power compared to them. Though to be fair, Alistair is the exception, being one of the, what if not the strongest overlords and killing them, which, considering Vox is likely sub-relative to Alistair, as while it is implied that Vox could at least give some trouble to Alistair, we know that he definitely lost the fight, and we know this because he's mad about the fight. And via Alistair's own statements, not only does Vox want Alistair's power, he needs help to be considered remotely a threat to Alistair. While these statements are questionable, Stolas is noted to be in the same tier of Alistair.
They say, let's change the world. Who is more powerful, Alistair or Stolas?
Oh.
There's only one right answer to this.
That's a good one. I haven't thought about that. I mean, the way their powers work is different, so it's hard to say. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Stolas, though.
No!
But I don't know. They aren't in the same, like, direct contact. So I don't know.
No, I have a look. Remember how I killed Pentius with the tentacles? That would absolutely subdue him.
I think it's fine if you upscale Stolas off of some of his feats. However, considering Alistair, while casual, is contending people like Adam, and the unimaginable statement referring to not only overlords, but we see Goetia and it fine, then it is, I'd say Alistair is definitely above Stolas, since Stolas doesn't really have any other comparisons to the main cast. And while, as the aforementioned Alistair is not trying against Adam that hard, Adam isn't taking it too seriously either. And when Adam starts to get annoyed at Alistair, Adam just kind of one-shots Alistair. And Charlie could also harm a more serious Adam when she got angry herself. It's that you can say Alistair and Charlie are either relative, above one another, etc. Either way, they both scale to Adam physically. And Lucifer, when he's non-serious and serious, can dog on Adam badly. But the sins themselves, I'd say, are quite weird, as they're definitely above the normal ass sinners, but they'd range from Overlord tiers to maybe like Lucifer tier directly, depending on where you want to put them, since it's questionable if they're above people like Adam. However, we're not really sure. The only thing that's really notable for them is there's like narrative shit or just implications and speculations, though I don't think anyone's gonna argue if I say the known sins should upscale off of the Vox City level feat, or more or less any of the large town level feats that we mentioned before. And something to note is that nobody should scale to the mountain level AP of Adam's beam. Even people like Lucifer wanted to more directly avoid the beams and didn't really tank them head on when Lucifer was completely fine just toying with Adam. He seemed to not want to deal with the lasers, as nobody else has been shown to tank it or anything, and Adam's Dura doesn't scale to it either. It's kind of like the black hole in JJK. While the character who uses it is not a top tier, the feat itself is just kind of in a range of its own where no one really upscales of it, and it's a specific AP feat. Same thing with Stolas' country level feat, since it's just kind of magic. While you can make the argument that the magic that some of the characters have could upscale off of it, it seems that at the very least it'll upscale off of Adam's feat. Maybe the magic of people like Alistair and Lucifer could be at around large, like large mountain tiers and shit, but that's up to interpretation, I'd say. But at the very least, their ability is just more out of city range either way. The magic doesn't upscale their durability. For speed, Stolas's FTL shit is only flight speed, and no one really scales to it. For actual like combat and reaction speed, the Imp Demons are constantly able to dodge and react to sniper fire, or people who scale to IMP like Fizz. And Lucifer's flight and reaction speed is also massively hypersonic off of catching Charlie, which, considering how we can react to Adam's lasers, which are not only referred to as light, are also calced at the same speed. And it's consistent as Vox is able to move around as little electricity and lightning, and as we mentioned before, people like Alistair and people above him would upscale off of Vox. So let's get into their hacks. As Angel puts it, the sinners are immortal as they are already dead.
I'm gonna kill him. Too late, Toots. Wait! Would that make me double dead? Where exactly do I go? To double hell?
And according to Vivzy, this is more of a resilient immortality.
They also are extra resilient. Like, they get crushed and shot and beat up all the time, and that doesn't really kill them.
Did that guy in the trailer that got crushed, or in the clip that got crushed by a rock for the drugs?
He's probably not dead, knowing the kind of energy of the show. Like, you just you can get messed up and be okay.
Angels can open portals, which arguably means a form of BFR if you think they have the intelligence to maybe kind of push Gojo into the portal or something. Alistair and Stolas can do the same thing. Even Stolas and the Angels being able to do it on a level where they can travel through dimensions. For more specific hacks, Lucifer is non-physical, as he is a being made of pure light. Stolas has petrification, and Alistair and Charlie both show low levels of reality warping and Toon Force in their music video, which Alistair can do outside of his music number too, pretty casually. It's nothing major, more just like things like summoning out of midair, changing objects, or more summoning. A lot of summoning. And the Overlords can also control souls, even Alistair threatening to rip it out of Husk and tear it apart. And Vox and Stolas outright just both have mind hacks. So we move to the conclusion, which is this verse has large mountain levels of AP and city level durability, massively hypersonic speed, maybe relativistic, and decent hacks. Now to Gojo.
I heard you're the strongest there is. Believe it or not, I heard the same thing about you. Domain expansion. Infinite void. Had it been purely a test of raw strength, perhaps Son Goku would have bested Satoru Gojo. But against his domain expansion, Goku fell powerless. The only thing that could save him now was the sudden intervention of an unlikely third party. And at that moment, the strongest sorcerer of our time and the strongest martial artist of all time would bear witness to the Family Guy and his overwhelming intensity.
Domain expansion. The drunken clam.
Hey, Peter. Remember that time you fought Gojo and Goku?
No, stop!
Reverse curse technique. Cutaway gag.
Like with Hazbin, lower tier feats performed by lower tier characters range anywhere from building to small town in the JJK case, large town level to small city due to Urami's ice structure, destruction by Sukuna, and Jogo's meteor being small city, with 15 fingers Sukuna's Fuga, which one-shotted Jogo, being in the same range of power. Jogo also has calculations getting him to large mountain level off his domain, and Dagon, someone on a similar tier of him, his domain is calced at island level respectively. And Gojo is also said to be able to power a nation with his cursed energy, which is his AP Endura, as CE is a part of physicals, and can even amp physicals. And considering the context, likely they could do it for a sustainable period of time, which is why the feat gets to island level, and is consistent considering how people like Dagon, who get mopped by fuckers like Toji, are also island level. And for the highest end of power, Gojo would pretty casually be able to create small country level earthquakes at its highest end. And keep in mind, Gojo and Sukuna are both stated to be the strongest out of everything else in the verse, and both of them scale to each other. And considering while both of them non-serious and in weaker states, at least for Sukuna's case, can dog on Jogo, and pretty much any of the lower tier characters that we mentioned, there is some way that Gojo or Sukuna upscale them off of directly or indirectly. So Gojo's AP should be around from island level to small country level. For speed, even 15 finger Sukuna has massively hypersonic stuff. However, JJK also has FTL metas, like with Kashimo, whose attacks are compared to EMPs, as directly stated. which Sukuna can react and dodge a couple times, EMPs being speed of light, and a couple points during their fight, Gojo could blitz Sukuna. Gojo's hollow purple being FTL, which Sukuna can also perceive and react to. Once again, Gojo being able to blitz Sukuna during points in their fight. Gojo would be blitz level above Sukuna's per reaction and perception speed. Now to Gojo's hacks and abilities. For general curse energy stuff, curses that are intangible and can even go through walls are constantly exercised by the curse energy, so it's not only Durineg but can negate any non-physical shit. And in fact, curses are invulnerable to physical attacks, and even if you were stronger than it would not matter, and can only be, once again, exercised by curse energy. And Gojo also has techniques like Simple Domain, which is a technique that negates the opponent's powers and abilities. And Gojo also has the technique Hollow Cut to deflect damage that's put onto him back on the opponent. And once again, technique is just another word for powers or abilities someone in the verse can do. Gojo also has his domain, which not only makes his attacks guaranteed hits, but is a guaranteed hit in general. What this domain does essentially overload the opponent's mind with infinite information, essentially brain death in a way. Since there's no way for this opponent to recover from this state, and this attack can even affect souls. Gojo with his Infinity can even manipulate space and time and attack on an atomic level, as well as manipulate things on that scale. Speaking of Gojo's Infinity, this Infinity is the ability to manifest a natural infinity in reality, essentially manipulating space to make it the opponent will never close the distance between him and Gojo. It's a lot of math which I can't be asked to talk about, but he does this unconsciously to the point where he can even use RCT with it. He can even use Infinity to redirect and pulverize his opponents if he wants to, essentially expanding it. Gojo, with his aforementioned RCT, uses it as regeneration. Pretty good regen is that, even from rapid fire attacks and attacks right to the throat and head. This is once again something he can do subconsciously. Gojo, as mentioned before, can not only amplify himself, but his attacks with curse energy. Some of them, like red, going up to double the normal output, and his hollow purple is arguably a form of erasure, due to it being imaginary mass and all, which can be a form of erasure. Hell, Gojo can even just see what your powers and abilities are, due to his aforementioned 6 eyes, and can also use them as a form of precognition, reading his opponent's moves. As we covered, Gojo just massively outscales them in terms of AP and durability. Even the high tier magic doesn't compare to Gojo's bare minimum island level scaling, more or less country. The speed gap is also massive. Hazbin Hotel's best feats are massively hypersonic, while Gojo's easily in those FTL ranges. Maybe Hazbin's hacks could save the day. They could tear open his soul, possess their effect them mentally. Gojo can't kill them with their immortality, right? Their low level reality whipping and soul's petrification could work too. No. No. Simple Domain would definitely neutralize their abilities for one, and we even see beings invulnerable to physical harm no matter how strong the user is be exercised by cursed energy. Same things with demons who are intangible, meaning both forms of the immortality that the angels and demons have would effectively be useless. More or less with things like Hollow Purple or Unlimited Void, those things would counter their immortality regardless. But as much as it's corny and used, they have no real way to bypass Infinity either, at least with their strikes or physical attacks and magic. And even if they land a hit, their durability is too high for any lasting damage to happen. Even if he was damaged, he could subconsciously use RCT or deflect the damage back at them with shallow cuts. He'd also be automatically aware of the demon's powers, even with just a glance, and be able to precog their attacks. More or less, he'd just be too fast for it to work anyways. The reality warping matter doesn't matter too much anyway, since it's just on a low level, even if it magically doesn't get negated or redirected by Simple Domain and shallow cuts. This fight was a massive fucking mismatch from the beginning. Gojo stomps, and unlike some of the memes, he doesn't need Sukuna's help to do this.